Welcome everybody. Very excited to be here. Welcome at this webinar, the partner recruitment trap. What's more important, partner quality, partner quantity, what you should focus first on. We've got some heavy hitters in this meeting. Jay McBain, Chief Analyst from Canalys, also the Tutti Capi of Channel. Funny thing is what Jay doesn't know. I actually wrote half of my thesis about Forrester in that time, about 4 or 5 years ago, and now 5 years later we're actually in the same webinar. So that's quite funny. We got Ben Wright, the CEO of Partner Fuel, but probably more people of you know him as the LinkedIn hustler. So wherever you are on LinkedIn, Ben is as well. Then we got Niels Bergmans, the partner management lead at Tracify, known for his partner tribes, so really setting up his communities. And if you don't know him from his partner tribes, probably know him from his hats or from his bow ties. As you can see in a minute, he's wearing a beautiful one today as well. And then we got Rick from the Bosch, CEO of Channext, also known as the Portal Basher. So why are we here today? It all started with a post actually. So a post of Ben saying, listen, partnership peeps, don't sign more partners, but focus on quality before you actually start scaling up. Make sure that your quality is very well, but because most partnership people tend to forget about this fact and just start recruiting more and more partners. Where Jay said, maybe that's true, but aren't your recruitment targets too narrow? Shouldn't you also make sure that you have enough partners in your channel to make sure that you actually grow with these partners as well? Then Niels responded and he said, it's all about balance. So make sure you have enough partners, make sure quality is well enough. And then we also added Rick in this discussion because we all know that A, Rick loves a great discussion, and B is also a big fan of partnerships and partner recruitments. So what does it look like today? We'll start off with some opening statements, then we can all respond to each other, really get the discussion going, and we'll end up with some Q&A. As you can see, I got my referee outfit on to make sure that it's all done in an easy and calm way. If it's not, we got these two bad boys so that we can send everyone out if necessary. So yeah, great that all of you are here, and let's get to business. So I want to ask Ben, can you please give us your opening statement?
Yeah, of course, and thanks so much for having me. Excited to be chatting with this group today. So my opening statement is quality matters the most at the start of a partner program. And quantity can dilute focus and result in ineffective partner programs. So that would be my opening statement, and kind of piggybacks off of, I think, the post that you referenced at the top. And yeah, I'm speaking kind of from experience, having started a couple of partner programs myself.
All right, amazing. I actually got 3 minutes for everyone for the opening statement. So I think you even did it under 30 seconds. So that's great. Then Jay, can I ask you to follow up on this with your view?
Yeah, sure. I think every company in every industry, as an entrepreneur, you start with your market TAM. There's some big multi-billion-dollar number that you talk to your friends, you talk to investors, you get excited about. When you break that TAM into customers, big, medium, and small, 27 different industries, 193 different countries, and you kind of start breaking it down as an analyst would, you start looking at your customers, and you learn pretty quickly that there are 7 people today that they trust. And if you just do the simple math, that if I were to get to talk to every one of my prospects, and if I were to win my fair share of that TAM, I'm going to need, at least one, if not more, of those 7 people to be saying nice things about me early and often in the process. And that just leads to math. And whichever partner number you come up with, I need 100 partners, I need 1,000, I need 10,000, will, for me as an analyst, tell you exactly what your market SAM, serviceable addressable market, and then SOM is underneath that. And I can go tell investors at that point that at this particular point in time, I know they're staring at billions of dollars and they're thinking they're going to buy a big yacht. Right now, they're not going to hit 10 million in revenue without a different ecosystem strategy, without a different level of scale. So rather quality or quantity, the fact of the matter is you back into a number. And to get to where you want to be as a business, you have to be in that many conversations. And that is the number.
All right. Thank you very much. Well, you know, it's going to be a good discussion if we're talking about total addressable markets and formulas. Niels, can you please enlighten us with your balanced vision?
Yeah, I mean, amen to that. As soon as you know your time, you know where you're going to aim at, right? And you know at one point what your serviceable market will be. In my opinion, it is like, hey, get as many as partners as you can. Get them into your partner tribe, start to nurture them, start to learn from them, and figure out your ICP along the way. Once you figured out your ICP and the total span of power of your partner managers, then you can start be selective and start to nurture the ones that are really actually bringing the money. And like maybe say goodbye, farewell, or just exile those partners that are not really bringing in the effort or bringing in the numbers that you want to see to reach that ultimate goal in the end.
All right. So you're basically saying you're improving the quality of your partner channel by actually throwing in a lot of partners and then working your way like that. Interesting. All right. Rick van der Bos. Oh, we can't hear you, Rick. Some technical issues. Not yet.
We'll come back to Rick.
And we'll come back to Rick. And that's even we
Is it working now?
Yes. All right.
Okay.
There we go. Rick in the house.
Okay, thanks. Sorry for that. I think some great opening statements there, and I think I'm fully aligned there that you really need to start with the end goal in mind. So what revenue targets do we want to achieve? And that of course starts with what is our total addressable market. So the same from there, you work backwards into what milestones you want to get to that number. And I think that's also what I always really advise, like to reverse engineer your number. So you have a certain revenue target for the upcoming year. From there, you need to look at what is my conversion rate of my deals, how many deal registrations do I then need, how many partners or how many deal registrations does a partner do on average, and what do I need to do to enable my partner to start creating deal registration on a regular momentum, so to say. And I think what I see happening a lot there, and I think that's interesting in this quantity versus quality session, is that because we haven't fixed the partner journey properly. So what I really see, I always call it like the partner engagement gap, that we recruit a lot of partners, but then because we can't guide them towards self-sustainable revenue, that we lose many of those partners along the way. And therefore we need to keep recruiting more and more partners. We put a lot of quantity in it, but that's also a reason for your channel becoming a lot more laggy, so to say, where you need many resources. It also becomes more inefficient, and we get into this like vicious cycle of having to recruit more and more partners. We still haven't fixed our partner journey, so more and more keep getting inactive throughout it. And I think I got that metric from you, Jay, that I think 80% of partners is inactive in the average partner program. And that's of course very that's a lot actually. I always try to think at it from like a customer perspective, that you get in that amount of customers, but 80% of customers would churn again. And I think that will be definitely my opening statement, and love to discuss today, like how do you balance both indeed, because before you can start pulling quantity, you need very good quality, because otherwise your channel will become very large and with a lot of overhead there.
All right. Interesting. So basically really setting up the foundation of quality and then throwing your partners in so that you make sure that along the way, the leaky partner bucket isn't as leaky as it actually should be. And if you fill it in with water or with partners, depends on how you look at it, it doesn't really drip out. All right. Who wants to respond to that?
Yeah, I can. I forgot the hand. I put the hand raised. Apologies. I've already messed up there.
That's the first one, Ben.
Yeah, first yellow card for me. Apologies. Brits always get yellow cards though, Bart, you know that. So I'm following type. No, I think what Rick mentioned there was really interesting and definitely something that resonates with me around. If you have a lot of partners, how do you maintain quality control of your partner program? Meaning that, okay, if you recruit, let's say 1 to 10 really good partners, you can really dive into whether your training and enablement is hitting the mark, right? Whether your sales team are interacting correctly. And so I think for me, that point resonates really well, especially when you're creating a brand new partner program. You're building out that partner journey, which has so many component parts to it that you need to get right for partners to be activated and to achieve success. And so I think that's definitely where I'm coming from a quality perspective, especially starting a brand new partner program, because you're then able to get feedback from your partners. You're then able to kind of tweak processes and things that you've put into your partner program and ensure that they're top quality before recruiting more and more partners and losing sight of that programmatic piece.
All right, very interesting. I see Jay raising his hand. Jay, take the stage, please.
Yeah, I think before we get into kind of programs and processes and people and automation and things like that, back to the original question, I thought, maybe a history lesson would be good, because I think that, Ben went right into programmatic partner experience stuff. Rick went right into deal registrations. Those are programmatic. And for Rick, that's mostly transactional. So there's 2 types of partners in the world. There are partners that will collect the customer's money on your behalf and do a bunch of other value add things. And then there's partners that will do a bunch of value add things and not collect their money. There are different processes and logic and workflows and everything that go for both of those. But out of those 7 partners that your customer already trusts, 6 or more of them will never collect their money on your behalf. So the orders of magnitude of channels has changed. So August the 12th, 1981, IBM launches the first IBM PC and makes a decision, which was almost a consumer-like channel decision, of geofencing partners. So every city, every reasonable sized city in the world got, let's say, 4 partners that handled quadrants of the city, much like you'd start a retail type of thing. And people could drive into the dealer, for example. And that set up a channel, let's say, of 10,000 plus partners. And every single one of those entrepreneurs who got an IBM license at the time, it was like getting a McDonald's franchise. You were guaranteed to be a millionaire. And many of the channel partners that have been around 40 years, still around, the owner principal, probably retiring now, multi-millionaires. It was a ticket to stardom. That got beat. IBM got beat in market share based on this question. Compaq, small little company out of Texas, came in and signed up basically every partner who could fog a mirror. And for every city who had 4 IBM authorized partners, got 40 or 50 new Compaq partners. And Compaq made the bet that more partners covering more territory in more customer conversations would sell more laptops. And it worked. And so Compaq became #1 in the world at selling PCs. Microsoft kind of got sniff of that, went and signed up all the Compaq partners, but then went even further and started signing up partners that couldn't fog a mirror. And they got to the point where Microsoft had 470,000 reseller type partners around the world, of which they still do to this day. And how they're beating AWS, how they beat Netscape, how they got into security and are probably the biggest security company in the world now. Every single success story of Microsoft's past has been the size scale of their army on the street, quantity versus quality. What we all found out, this will be the last part of it, what we all found out, and I was managing IBM and Lenovo for 17 years, is that yes, 80 to 90% of the partners fall on this long tail and they're not active. And it wasn't because they're poor performing partners. These were entrepreneurs and many of them were, doing really, really well. But they were never geared as resellers. The fact that they were on the long tail meant that they were adding other value to the customer. And it was the vendor's fault that we never went and figured out what that value was, because all of the economics of partnering was around pain at the point of sale. If you didn't collect the money, you didn't collect another nickel from any other vendor. There's 35,000 vendors today running these reseller type programs that only pay at the point of sale. And this is the quantity part of it. There are 10 non-transacting partners for every one transacting partner, one that'll collect the customer's money. And this is the size and scale of where we are now in the market. And that's kind of the history lesson of what got us here. And whether you resell or not, whether your company's direct, like a Salesforce, who are recruiting 500,000 partners as a direct company, or whether you're Microsoft, who, previous to Azure was 90% sold through a channel, are bringing on 400 new partners a day. It doesn't matter if you believe in your customer, spending money through others or not. It matters in terms of who surrounds your customer and making sure that you're going after your market TAM with an army of people that have earned the trust to recommend and influence that customer along the way.
All right. Well, even got a history lesson today. It's getting better and better. I also have some questions, but before I do, I see that Rick raised his hand, so I'm gonna be giving the mic to Rick. Rick, go ahead.
Yeah, I think you're touching upon something super interesting here, Jay. And also, I had a conversation with someone this week as well. We're talking about product market fit and channel market fit, but also indeed the moat that you see, for example, with a Microsoft, because the channel market fit is so strong that you can even get away with sometimes a poor product in certain areas where they enter for such a long time, because you have those trusted advisors very close to you. What's your opinion there, Jay, in terms of indeed? I think with those like influencer type of partners, you need way more. But what's the way there to like get them on board, but not just like have them register and nothing happens, but also the piece behind it, so to say?
Yeah. So if you break partnerships into 6 categories, we're talking about kind of marketing style partnerships here. It could be affiliates, advocates, affinity partners, it could be influencers, it could be super connectors. There's all kinds of business models that, again, center around not collecting the customer's money. They're not resellers. So they will never enter a deal registration form. So if they don't take that action, how do we monitor, measure, and manage those first 28 moments when an end client, and this is for you, Todd, the end client spends 28 moments before they choose you as a vendor, from the point they have a problem to the point they choose. In those 28 moments, how do you figure out and get visibility to partner value that they're adding? It could be an ebook, it could be a podcast, it could be something like this, a webinar. It's all kinds of things. It could be a peer group, whatever it is that they're doing to help you along the way. There is new technology. It's over my shoulder on a tech stack. There's 4 islands of innovation now in partner attribution, which does not rely on a deal reg form. Partner account mapping and data mapping services that don't rely on a partner taking action and registering with you. But in the post-cookie world, when third-party data evaporates, you can't just go buy a list of early signals from Google or Facebook. Second-party data takes over. And the people that earn those clicks, the people that nudge your customer towards vendor selection, you have to get better at making that visible, recognizing that, and over time, starting to spread that money around like peanut butter to encourage them to do more of what they're doing in those early phases. These are those non-transactional partners that are so important in the marketing phase. We haven't talked about sales or customer success or the technology alliances and strategic and business alliances yet, that also help you with a customer for life.
Awesome. Thank you for that.
I was on mute. That's always great. Great addition. Thank you, Jay. And before also go to specifically Niels, I saw you nodding. I think you also have some great comments to this. So please take the stage.
Thank you. I think the things that Jay just said, that will trigger more and more questions. So we can talk about hours and hours and hours and end about all those topics. The thing that you just said, Jay, about having this huge army of partners that will fight for you, that will get your marketing, brand awareness in all that. Most important thing that you said, I think I agree on that, is creating trust. What if you have over a zillion thousands of partner managers? Only 1/10 of it will trust you. Why not at one point cut away the ones that you don't really trust and not pay that much attention and try to automate that part, but really start focusing and relying on the ones who trust you, that will do that extra mile, whether they take their money or not.
Jay, go ahead. Do you want to answer to this?
Yeah, I mean, you hear from different people around the industry, trust is the new oil. But assuming, companies wrongly assume, by the way, from a direct marketing perspective, that they can go gain trust with every buyer in every part, every market segment and stuff like that. They forget that there are already people that have been working decades in front of that customer. So an example, in marketing, the head of marketing in many companies spends more money on technology than the head of technology. That head of marketing has 9,932 SaaS companies that it can buy for its stack. And so on average, they're going to buy 7 different things, but who has the trust in front of a CMO? Well, probably companies that have been advising them and consulting with them and supporting them for 100 years, digital agencies. 200,000 digital agencies, 78% of which are now tech services companies, not just doing creative work and concierge work. 50 years ago, they were kind of like Mad Men helping you with TV ads. 20 years ago, they helped build your website. 10 years ago, they helped you get on page 1 of Google. Well, now they're help implementing and integrating and securing and making compliant your HubSpot environment, your Marketo, your Eloqua, your Pardot, and then helping you with the other 6 choices. For every $1 that a customer will spend on HubSpot, they will spend $5.80 getting it to work. And that's the surroundings. And that's why HubSpot is recruiting hundreds of thousands of partners, not just agencies, but of all the trusted partners. That's why they're trying to get integrated with all 9,932 ISVs, SaaS apps on top of it. That's why they're so ecosystem first. And they came from 4th place last decade to become worth $47 billion on the stock market because they saw quantity versus quality as a way to do partnering.
All right. Well, thank you, Jay. Quick intermezzo. I see Todd Hussey saying in the chat, far too many partner peeps defining partners as a seller. That mentality must change as soon as possible. I think that's a great addition to this full discussion here. It could be maybe on the tile somewhere in my bathroom. Before we do that, I'm gonna give the word to Ben, who raised his hand this time, by the way.
Yeah, there we go. I just wanted to kind of put a question to the group, because I think I'm in broad agreement with what Jay's talked about around surrounding, your customers with these influencers, these people that can influence their buying decision. But I think there's a piece, especially again, there'll be people on this webinar that are starting brand new partner programs, right? Brand new partner programs, singular partner managers. And so how do we reconcile the need to, in Jay's mind, surround customers with these partners with resources, right? Where maybe you've got one partner manager that's tried to manage the entire partner program. Now, if you're a HubSpot or Microsoft, no issue there, right? Because you've got these big marketing machines, all of these employees that are able to go out, recruit, manage, etc. And so I kind of just wanted to put that question to the group. How do you reconcile the need to acquire, recruit more partners with a lack of resource, especially for new partner programs?
Very good question. I think Rick, you want to be first. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think Ben was kind of reading my mind. I was going in the same direction, but I think you're great. You're the question you ended with, because that was exactly what I was thinking about as well. I think it makes a lot of sense indeed, where you see it with Microsoft, with HubSpot. They have been developing their partner program for a long time. It's getting better and better. I think their partner journey is a lot less leaky, but indeed the majority of vendors that we are also speaking with on a daily basis are really struggling with this. Like they get from their management. They get told we need to recruit more partners, we need to get bigger partner program, etc. But at the same time, they see them coming in, but also see them dropping out just as quick. And I think that's really something I keep advising time and time again. Really make sure that you make it work with a small set of partners first and find your playbooks, find repeatable success there before you start scaling. Because the worst thing you can do is start a new partner program, immediately get 1,000 partners in, and then everything goes sideways. Because that's really the thing with partner, and I like that you use the word trust, Niels. It's all about trust. And once you burn that, the partnership can be burned forever, or it will be a lot of work later on to fix everything again. So I think that's really important. First, make sure you can make a set of partners very successful. And then I'm fully on board with Jay. If you found the code, then scale as quick as possible.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Rick. Really build the process first. And if you have the process right, then start filling it with partners. I think Niels, you wanna add to that, please go ahead.
Yeah, what Ben just did for Rick did for me. What I wanted to say is those basics are so keen. When you start from scratch, like already mentioned, make sure to have as many partners as possible, see what works, and log it somewhere. Be able to really track what's coming in, what's coming out, how to process things. And I think you need several tools. Of course, you have your CRM tool, like already mentioned, on HubSpot, but also think about certain marketing automation or maybe an LMS for your partner enablement to really get those partners driven and really get those partners on the educational level that they really understand what you're doing as a solution or a product that you're selling. Based on that, also make it as easy as possible for those partners with, for instance, a one-pager or an easy-to-use portal that they can log into and refer their leads at. And again, then you go more to the hands-on part of things. How do partners do that? How do you keep that tension? But have a settled tech stack in a sort of way to really operate that before you start trimming down a lot of partners that you have into the partners that you really want.
All right, thanks, Niels. So I hear you talking about making it as easy as possible. Ben talking about quality, and Rick talking about creating a very, very good process. Jay, I'm very curious. When should you start then? And when should you start piling up the partners if you have the process and everything in place?
Yeah, Ben makes an excellent point. There's a point of timing in everything. And I'll say that there's some history to this one as well. Partners, and it was said in the comments, that have always been synonymous with selling. A lot of SaaS entrepreneurs, a lot of boards, think of channeling as channels of distribution. That's what channel is short for, which is reselling. And, one thing strange happened in SaaS, and it's happened in infrastructure, and it's happening in other places now as well. But this industry last year, $4.5 trillion of tech that was bought by businesses and governments around the world, is 73.3% resold. So I don't blame anyone for thinking it's synonymous with selling, but SaaS is only about 20% resold. And that's after 20 plus years. Infrastructure as a service, AWS, Google, and Microsoft, only about 20%. Microsoft's a bit higher, but that's about 20% as well. In a subscription consumption model, whether you're selling toothbrushes or cars or software, there is not the focus on resell. And that's why marketplaces are growing at 86% compounded. That's why direct is so important. That there's this model that, channels are not synonymous with selling, which is great because they're not. I mean, they're doing so many other things. There's hundreds of other things they do to approach that multiplier. But the timing is a nuance. A new company coming out, let's say 5 years ago, would have had to make the decision on timing. When do we franchise? If you've ever seen the movie The Founder, it's a story about McDonald's and Ray Kroc and perfecting that burger. Half the movie was about that single location they had, where they perfected, where they put the fry-o-lator, how many inches over they moved the grill to make that delivery of the hamburger 5 seconds faster. Once they certified, and we call that today product fit. Once you have renewing, happy customers, and you've reached some level of product fit, the second stage then is sales and marketing, repeatability. And it wasn't until you reach those two stages that you start thinking about putting a restaurant on every street corner of the world. If you're selling coffee like Starbucks, if you're selling donuts, whatever you're doing, before you start putting restaurants on every street corner, you got to make sure that somebody wants to eat your donut and drink your cup of coffee. And you want to make sure that kind of the branding, all that stuff is done. But that was always the story of when. And what size do you need to be? And when do you have to put one of these partners on every street corner to make sure you can get to your market TAM? But the SaaS has blown all that up. Because as a SaaS company, literally day one, you are a partner. You grow up in an ecosystem because you're building your product on an infrastructure company. You're building on AWS or Azure or Google out of the gate. And then you're building your product alongside whatever your buyer is buying as a foundation. So you're going to build alongside either Salesforce or ServiceNow or Marketo or NetSuite or HubSpot, Workday, whoever your buyer is, you're going to be working in that ecosystem to make sure you're integrated there, to make sure that you work in front of an integration first buyer. So the story isn't really timing anymore because you start day one as ecosystem friendly. But those questions on resell do come after time. And getting product fit, a lot of companies make the error of going out and finding their first 1,000 partners, thinking like most entrepreneurs do, I don't know where this product's going to end up. Our customers are going to help take us there. Not the same thing happens with partners. A lot of partners will disengage if you're out fishing in the market, if you're using them to go try to find product fit or using them to try to figure out your sales and marketing model. If you skip those 2 steps, it is dangerous because you never get a second chance with partners, and they have very long and detailed memories on who has tried to pull one over their eyes. So these things are critical. I would go back to Ben. I mean, there's a whole book there of importance on timing, but no one here is advocating that let's start day one and rip out there to every event we can go to and put out a fishbowl and start collecting business cards and let's build 1,000 partners day one.
Yeah, amazing. So I also hear you talking about process now and also about setting up certain activities before you actually start scaling. I hate to say it, but it feels like we're getting closer and closer to each other. Guys, Ben, please go ahead and tell us a little bit more about what you think.
No, and I really like Jay's last statement. It's got me thinking about a lot of things, specifically in the ISV world, the SaaS world, where I feel like a lot of partnerships are based on those technology integration partnerships, right? And actually, there's a piece, Jay. I was talking to a founder yesterday, a company called Arrows, who integrate into HubSpot, and they used to integrate into all of these ecosystems, but they've actually made a decision because they're seeing better product market fit in the HubSpot ecosystem to really double down on HubSpot. And so, to Jay's point, actually through partnering, they've been able to refine their product market fit and now find that ecosystem to really go to market in. And so I thought that was a great point. I kind of had another question to the group, and specifically focusing on SaaS now and kind of the ISV partnership programs. How do we think that lack of experience, knowledge of partnerships impact kind of that debate of quantity versus quality? Because in my experience, starting partner programs, if you've got an executive team that haven't partnered before, they view that quantity as a success metric, right? That's one thing that they look at. Like, Ben, how many partners have we recruited? And so again, I wanted to put that question to the group around maybe lack of knowledge from an executive team influencing that decision to go out and recruit a ton more partners. And so I kind of wanted to throw that out there and get some kind of responses, because I think traditional channel, where they understand the motion, it's a little bit easier, right? But ISV, again, brand new partner program, I kind of wonder how executive lack of knowledge influences the decision to recruit more partners.
All right. Well, thank you very much for that, Ben. Niels, I've never seen anyone raise their virtual hand as fast as you just did. So please go ahead and take the stage.
I just literally had a discussion about this topic a couple of weeks ago with one of the founders. And I think it's not per se the lack of knowledge about partnerships. I think it's more the lack of having certain set goals that you want to reach with your partner program in order to be successful. In that case, I would say, like, if you have the goal to have a huge partner tribe with over like 1,000 partners, all about brand awareness, then obviously the knowledge should be learned and thought about, hey, how can we get as many as possible? If it's measured success by the amount of MRR that you can bring in or amount of ARR that you can bring in via those partners, then that whole game changes. So I don't think it's per se the lack of knowledge, but the lack of clear goals, a clear mission that you want to achieve in the end to be successful.
All right, thank you very much. If nobody else wants to answer to that, I think, oh, I was too fast. Jay, go ahead.
There's a big sea change that's happening. We've talked a lot about marketing, and we went through the decade of marketing, so that's our most recent history. In the decade of the ecosystem, we're getting some top-down help. The first thing we know, all of us know, if we're starting a software company, we look up at the Fortune 500 and we think about ourselves someday maybe being worth billions of dollars and riding the high life. But there's no company that we look up there that did it without partnerships. There's no company that's ever reached the Fortune 2000 in tech without partnerships. So if anybody thinks they're going to run the gauntlet and run, their way up to world stardom and start building spaceships and fly to Mars without partnerships, it's just wrong. And their board is telling them that. So we're at a point now where 76% of CEOs, every industry, every size company, every part of the world, think ecosystems first. When you remind people that 79% of people won't buy a car unless it has Apple CarPlay, it's not very long before the CEO of Ford and Mercedes and BMW start calling over to Apple and talking about Apple CarPlay version 2 when it takes over your speedometer and every pixel in front of the driver becomes Apple driven. That's a change in an industry that's 120 years old. Every one of the 63 CEOs of every major car manufacturer are calling Tim Cook and saying, can we get on the front line of Apple CarPlay version 3? And how many engineers can we send over to Cupertino to work with you? And how can we make more pixels on the seats, on the chairs, on the gear shift, in the back seat? Can we just literally change sheet metal into pixels on the outside of the car, which you saw BMW do, changing color cars? Every CEO in every industry right now is thinking about this, which is great for us because we get top-down pressure. We're not the Rodney Dangerfield, we get no respect, nobody understands what we do. It's now becoming corporate strategy for a majority of companies. Well, what your great responsibility, there's probably a Spider-Man quote in there somewhere. This is an additional layer of pressure that we have to come back with good answers to all these questions. And it's not just sizing, it's the coverage models, the capacity models, but there's about 100 other questions we have to answer programmatically, process automation-wise, technology-wise, people-wise, on how we're going to help our companies and the founder of our company start building spaceships. And that, for us, is what we're struggling with right now at every stage of our business. Whichever company we work for has how to do this with limited budgets and obviously limited, given today's macroeconomics, a lot of layoffs and everything else, and inflation and supply chain issues and wars in Europe and other things going on. This is not an easy job. And I think this is why the communities around channels and partnerships and ecosystems are thriving right now. So it's a great conversation.
So when I hear you speaking, Jay, it looks like we need to have another couple of webinars in the coming weeks, because I think we're definitely not done yet. But also partnerships first. If everyone is thinking partnerships first, community first, ecosystem first, at least it means that everyone here in this meeting is in the right industry. So that's a good part. I think we're going to be heading over to the questions. Please, if you have a question, type it into the chat. I also already have one, because I saw under a post of Jay, I saw someone commenting, you have to have just enough partners, because I've seen many cases where there are too many partners or solutions over distributing, partners impacting each other's success, partners really actively competing on price. So I'm wondering, question to the group, what do you guys think about this, and how do you make sure that upfront you already know what is my exact group of partners? What's the quantity do I need? What's the formula that I'm creating to make sure that I end up at exactly the right amount of high quality partners? Jay?
I mean, the whole title of this webinar, I think that statement's not true. I don't think that there's some level of perfect equilibrium. We talked about reselling things like hardware devices, and could you distribute yourself in the Netherlands? You know, the answer is yes. I mean, for economics of delivering atoms as opposed to bits, yes. I mean, there's limitations in terms of, you know, where you can scale, but we're not in that world. And even if you are delivering hardware at scale, you know, in a subscription consumption model, we're not there. So these are driving bigger numbers, and we have history lessons now to show if you're selling hardware or software or services in the tech industry, more is better. And, you know, you're in a numbers game, and there's 35 million permutations, by the way. If you want to win in front of a certain type of buyer, 75% of software is bought outside of IT. So winning in front of the buyer and who wraps around that buyer, winning in an industry, there's 297 sub-industries, winning in 193 countries, and the bigger countries, winning in states and provinces, winning in the segments from that lowest SMB customer flower shop up to the biggest enterprise Fortune 500, government, health, education, winning in product sets, in tech, in that 4.5 trillion last year, 250 major categories of tech. And, you know, on G2 Crowd, you've got 2,000 categories and over 100,000 entries. Huge amount of product categories. Delivery models, you know, whether it's in a subscription, whether it's in a consumption, whether it's in a managed service, whether it's in a procurement licensed model. There's so many different ways that customers buy and need to be covered that there's not the right amount. You know, that perfect bowl of porridge in this case. It is the companies that are aggressive on recruitment, like that Compact story I told, the Microsoft story I told, the Salesforce, but the smaller companies, the UiPath, you know, getting to the head of RPA leadership, Gong reaching the, you know, leadership in that category, ChatGPT getting to the leadership in that category. They are ecosystem first. And they've got very, very wide, broad, and aggressive plans on how to convert the world. And it's not the right amount.
All right. There is no perfect equilibrium. I hope we didn't disappoint too many people with that statement. Rick, I saw you want to respond to that. Please go ahead.
Yeah, thanks. I think I agree indeed with like that there is no right equilibrium, but what I do really think is that like scaling endlessly is not the answer, because what you really see, no matter what type of partnership you're in, whether it's a tech partnership, an influencer, a reseller, eventually, let's be honest, it's all about revenue. Whether it's your revenue or it's about their services revenue, a consultant that's going to implement, etc. And I always say, like, where revenue goes, attention flows. And that's very true in partnerships as well. So it doesn't matter if you're working with the GSIs, with the tech partner, or whoever, they are all looking, okay, where do I have the highest likability of increasing my own revenue? No matter whether it's resell, yes or no. And I think therefore, indeed, if you really go for mass recruitment in certain markets or in certain ecosystems, like I always like placing some strategic bets there as well. And I agree that you need skill in that, because you need to like spread your chances. But I don't really believe in like scaling as much as, recruiting as much as you can, because you will, unless you are like the hottest player in town, indeed, like HubSpot, like Microsoft, etc., then you will lose out on many of those partners that are very quickly distracted. That's like that leaky partner bucket. They think, well, I tried this for 3 months, nothing happened, I go on to the next vendor. And I think that's definitely something to keep in mind there. What I'm thinking about a lot.
I think I can fill my entire bathroom with things that have been said today. Wherever revenue flows, goes, attention flows. Very well said. Niels, please go ahead and respond to that. I see you raise your hand.
Yeah, I agree. There's no set rule or set number of partners that you have to have. I mean, keep in mind that if you're partnering up with your ICP partners, you can be sure as hell that your competitors are checking in with those resellers or those referral partners as well. So first of all, relationship, keep that really tight and never bet on just one horse or on your ICP pool. To answer on the question, like how do you get to that exact number, give or take, there's no exact number, is again, sit down with your board, with the founders, with CEO, CMO, whoever is your chief, and really go to what's the goal, what's the end goal, and then go back from there. If you need 1 million ARR, how many MRR would you need? How much do your ICPs bring into the table? On what time scale? How many leads are that? How many marketing qualified leads should that be? And all the way down to the top before you can really settle down on this is the somewhat amount of ICP partners that you might need.
Thank you very much for that valuable addition, and Niels. Really thinking about goals, what are the goals, and how we actually make sure that we will get there with the partners, qualitative or quantitative, that we have. I see also a great question from Rita coming into the comments. Taking a step back, how do we really define partner quality? So she says, I'm curious to know what's your most basic qualifying criteria when recruiting new partners, aside from having the same ICP. Quickest hand, Jay, please go ahead.
Yeah, this has been probably for 40 years the biggest question. I'm glad it came up because, you know, we just assumed this long tail. By the way we measured partners, they were failing. And I always go back to the adage, like if you measure a fish by their ability to climb a tree, they're going to fail. And partners are out there, and if they're successful businesses, profitable and growing and everything else, but they're not growing with you, it might be that you're just not measuring the value they're adding to their customers. And it might be that just that value isn't adjacent to you, and that's okay. And it might be a once in 2 year kind of transactional type of relationship with them. But there's probably a better chance that they're out doing things that are very valuable for either you earning a new client, getting a client on board, or keeping a client for life, or developing stickiness, helping you with enrichment, but you just don't have the tool set today to measure that. So again, you keep measuring that fish by their ability to climb a tree, and you keep looking at them and going, that's a crappy partner. It's a low quality partner. And not till you can build a better tool set, not can you build a more predictive and prescriptive tool set, will you say, that was never a bad partner. And now I'm measuring the fish for how it swims through a pond. Oh my goodness, this is one of my best partners.
There's some good statements that have been said on this webinar. I love what you said, Jay, around the adoption piece, like helping your product become more sticky, because I think that's something that's not often, sometimes not often valued. And again, you go back to the HubSpot model of their agency partners, right? And what they've been able to do is help all of these customers adopt HubSpot and make it super sticky. And it will be the only product that a lot of customers will use because of the effort that these agency partners have put into the relationship. And so I thought that was a great point, because I think we're too quick just to measure pure revenue dollars, right? Like how much software has been sold. And in actual fact, you look at the great ecosystems that exist in the world, a lot of that is based on helping your product become more sticky. So I thought that was a great point in terms of how a partner is defined as quality.
Thank you very much, Ben. Guys, looking at the time, we have 9 minutes left. I think it might be good also thinking about the fact that we want to send everyone home with some actionable insights. Time for some closing statements. So I think I'm gonna go ahead and give the word to Ben again, following the structure that we did at the beginning.
Yeah, closing statements. So I think again, the statement to take away, and it's maybe not the one that everybody wants to hear, but there's no perfect art here. There's nuance involved. And so I think taking into consideration where you're at as a partner program, what resources you have available really helps you answer that question of, should I be recruiting more partners, or should I be paying more attention to the partners that I currently have recruited? So not a perfect kind of end to the webinar, which is like quality versus quantity, But I think just echoing a few of the points that have been made here, which is it's a more nuanced conversation than just deciding to recruit more or stick with partners that you currently have.
Yeah, thank you very much. I also think that there is probably not a perfect answer, just like there is no perfect equilibrium of balance with partners. Jay, can you please go ahead and tell us your finishing statement?
Yeah, I got something really tactical. So get off this webinar and go, obviously you've done this before, and Google your solution in different ways. 81% of your customers are doing that. And follow every link off Google off the first 4, 5, 6 pages. Every podcast, every ebook, everything that comes back to your customer, remember that changes everywhere where they search. Then go ask ChatGPT the same thing. They're very detailed. Here I am, here's what we do. You know, what do people read? Where do they go? And who do they follow? And start building yourself a map of influence. Here's the magazines they read. Here's the peer groups they're attending. Here's the associations they're members of. Here's the events they attend. Here's the podcasts and webinar. I mean, literally there's 14 spheres of this. But for your product, for your company, build that and see it and have the list, have the database. Once you have it, start double clicking on every single one and writing names. Because if I was selling channel software like Rick is trying to do, you have 4 panelists here that would land on the top 100 list of super connected people driving podcasts, driving events, physical events, driving associations, very loud people that have been asked to talk about one thing here is quantity versus quality. But the fact is you're trying to do something else. You're not probably trying to sell channel software, but you still have that buyer who reads, who goes and who listens and trusts people. And those top 100 people inside all those watering holes are who you need to go to next. And those are the people that you should be asking about your partner strategy. First and foremost, those are partners of yours, and they should be the first 100, but they will give you probably free advice, and they will tell you the scale, the coverage, the capacity of what your kind of channel ought to look at. And they're probably pretty tactical people because they're super connectors, and they'll probably start writing off people off their Rolodex that you should be talking to. So very tactical, make that map and then make that list of 100 people. And over the next 6 months, make sure to have at least a 30-minute conversation with every single one of those 100 people.
Thank you very much, Jay. That's a very actionable insight. I actually love that. Follow the journeys and really build with that. I'm gonna go ahead and give it to Niels. Looking at the time, Niels, please go ahead.
That was a huge ass value bomb, and I think that was one of the most valuable ones that we could give away tonight as well, right? Not to start repeating anything that you guys already said, I just want to try to bring something new. Is again, go to the drawing table, set your measurement for success, set your goals. If you know that, then use everything that just been mentioned by these other 2 legends and work from there.
Amazing. I think if we actually start saying everything that the person said before you, it means that we're actually aligning more and more. So that's great. Thank you, Niels. Rick.
Yeah, I'm going to end with a tip, I think, around the thing that I'm speaking the most about on a daily basis, which is indeed the resell partnerships. Because there I would really advise for you, you want to achieve your target with a lean channel as possible there. And to do so, you need to start with that end revenue target in mind, start more long-term, but also definitely draw it back to upcoming year, upcoming quarter. And then really do indeed, like what I said earlier, really reverse engineer your number in terms of conversion percentages and really look, okay, what amount of deal regs, what amount of partners do we need for that? And as more specifically, really focus on that piece between partner recruitment to revenue. So how are we getting the partners there as quickly as possible and really focusing your onboarding to time to value, which in resale partnerships is time to revenue. So I think I'm going to end it with that because we have other people here who are way more experienced in the influence channel. But for resale, I would definitely advise to take a very mathematical approach, but also very much go on the quality of your onboarding and your partner journey, so you can make your partners that you do recruit as successful as possible, and therefore you and your organization as well.
I love that, Rick. Really focusing on increasing the quality of your process. I think whatever you do, improving the process and improving really the quality of everything you're doing is probably always very right. So even though you're not in the industry, still a very nice ending statement. Yeah, I think that was it for today, guys. I really want to thank everyone for attending. I want to thank Ben, Rick, Niels, and Jay for doing what they do best, and that's talking about what they know best. So thanks for attending. Glad I didn't need to draw one of these actually. So we got to end it in a fairly good way. We're going to be sending the recording to everyone that has been present, everyone that has not been present, and yeah, that's it for today. So thank you all very much.
Thank you, Bart, for being a great host, and thanks, Jay, Niels, and Ben as well.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Bye bye.
Cheers.
Ciao.
Bye bye.
Bye. Bye.